Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. As much as we truly want to live a great life, and I think I'm pretty safe in saying that, and knowing that that means something different to each of us, we also are excellent at getting in our own way. Sometimes that's easier to see in other people. Ever wonder why your very smart best friend keeps on making choices that don't work out, that seem less than successful? How you think about yourself, how you treat yourself in your own thoughts goes a long way to impacting your actions and what happens in your life. Your beliefs, whether you are aware of them or not, are very often the pivotal piece to shift in order to finally create a different outcome. So I invite you to stay tuned for my guest today who will help you open this door. Hi, I am Laurie Seymour, and I welcome you to Wisdom Talk Radio. I am the host, and I'm also the CEO and founder of the Baca Institute, home of the quantum connection process. You can head to the Baca Institute to discover your quantum connection with your inner guidance. That's what I mean about quantum connection, because as we start to understand what our own style is of connecting with source in our own unique way, then we really have taken the first step of aligning with our inner guidance at a deeper level than you really ever thought was possible. And the quantum connection quiz will help you on that way, because it will give you that first step. Really, your inner guidance and being able to connect with it is the secret to creating what you want in your life, to receiving what you want in your life. So my guest today is Judy Kane. She helps people identify and transform the subconscious beliefs that keep them repeating ineffective, stressful patterns. You see what I mean and why I'm inviting you to stay with us? She uses a fast change process to facilitate those changes. And she is also the author of Your 4 Truths, How Beliefs Impact Your Life. Welcome, Judy. I'm really, really happy to have you here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you, Laurie. I'm happy to be here too.
Great. Where do you join us from? Where are you in the world?
I'm in Tarpon Springs, Florida. It's in the Tampa Bay area.
Okay. I've been talking to a lot of people in that area for some reason. Okay, so what do you mean when you say subconscious beliefs? What are you speaking to, and where do they come from?
So when we're born, we don't have a whole lot of our operating system intact. and our job until we're about 7 is to create that operating system, if you will. And we do that because we are exposed to our immediate family, different institutions, and we're little sponges. We just pick up these beliefs wherever we can to help create our perspective. Those are what help us decide what we think about events, about people, about ourselves. And they control about 95% of our behavior. They are our reality for the most part.
That's what I was thinking, is that it not only creates our perspective, but it creates our reality.
It does. So that's what I'm talking about, is that subconscious world that we have that is our default system. If we're not consciously doing something, it's our subconscious that is doing it for us. And so it's really hard if you've got a conscious goal that contradicts a subconscious belief.
Well, tell me what you mean by that. Give me an example.
We grow up, most people in the US anyway, grow up with conflicting opinions or beliefs about money. Right? It's used as a measure of success, and yet We're also maybe told you shouldn't want more than you need,
Mm,
or that it's really, really hard. You have to work awfully hard to get it, or you don't want to be like those people who have too much and we don't like how they behave. There's conflict there, right?
mhm, mhm,
So frequently, I have worked with people who their business won't get to the next level. It's because their subconscious is protecting them from the ill effects of too much money.
the imagined ill effects
Yeah,
of having
yeah,
too much money.
absolutely. It's
So
all the belief system. Yeah.
yeah, so you've got something really set up that creates conflict.
Mhm.
And having been a psychotherapist for so many years, I mean, I got to witness that. And I'm also aware of how those subconscious beliefs um, color even what we try to do. You know, we
Absolutely.
can have the best intent and the best ideas, but somehow we don't ever follow through or carry through on something we think we want, and we may really want.
Yeah, absolutely. The self-sabotage that goes on because of the subconscious beliefs is real.
Mm-hmm.
People think they aren't working hard enough, or they're not, um, they don't have enough knowledge or enough resources for something that they consciously want.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, most of the time when there's that lack of ability to achieve the goal, the subconscious is at play somehow.
So could those things be true though? Maybe they don't have enough resources or they don't have the right training. How do you make that distinction? How do you have the discernment to know, where does this lie?
Well, I don't. But if there are
Mhm.
patterns that show up in people's lives, it's a pretty
Mhm.
good clue that that's not really a lack of something that tangible.
Ah, okay. So it's looking at the outcome, looking at how life is proceeding, looking at the repeating situations, shall we say?
Mhm. You can have people who think they need more credentials and they will never, and when I say think, I mean subconscious beliefs.
Right, right.
Um, they will never feel like they have enough credentials.
Hmm.
It,
Hmm.
or you can have a scarcity of money belief system where no matter how much they make,
Yeah.
it's not going to be enough because they don't think there's enough.
Right, right, right. And we can try and point to some reality, something that feeds that subconscious belief and say, well, see, I told you, or see, my bank account says this or that or the other.
Yeah,
But that there's really, what you're saying is there's something else going on that's in the way.
absolutely. Yeah. And the subconscious doesn't typically respond to logic or data.
Mm-hmm,
When
mm-hmm,
I work with people with phobias, people with a fear of flying, for instance,
mm-hmm.
they know that it's safer to get on the plane than drive to the airport statistically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, consciously, they've been told this, they'll acknowledge this. It does not take away that extreme reaction when they think about getting on a plane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what does?
You have to change that belief to know that it's safe to be there.
But if it, what you're saying is it's subconscious, so how do we bring that into the field for being able to address it?
With most of the people that I see, it's a process. And there are lots of people, I mean, that can help. Hypnotherapy can help. The process I use can help. There are lots of processes that can help alter those subconscious beliefs. Um, with the phobias, I don't, most of the people that I've seen with phobias, it's really a quicker thing to do is just see somebody can help. I've never had a client take a full hour to get rid of a phobia. It's
Wow.
usually pretty simple sourced. It's not very complicated. It might be extreme, but it's not
Mhm.
complicated.
What do you
Um,
mean by that? It's not complicated, since when we're talking about the psyche and the subconscious, I realize there are assumptions that of course it's complicated.
well, so the flying, for instance, with the fear
Mhm.
of flying, what I typically find is if you can disable that reaction mode, get rid of the emotion about flying when you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
that there are usually, sometimes there's nothing more than that, but usually if there's anything left once you do that, there are very few beliefs also contributing to that reaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might be that you also need to believe that the crew is competent, or that the plane is in good condition. Or
Mm-hmm.
recently, since COVID, the concern about being in a locked in space if not everybody's wearing a mask.
Right.
But there's not a whole array of beliefs contributing to that
Yeah. So that one's
response.
easier.
Yeah. Whereas if you're dealing with things like businesses not being successful, it can be the money conflict, it can be not deserving to have more, it can be not knowing enough to be able to do the right thing, it can be not subconsciously believing in the service or product that you are selling.
Mm-hmm.
it,
Mm-hmm.
it, it can be fear of failure, fear of success. I mean, you can have a whole bunch of things that play there.
Right. Yeah,
And so
it may not be one belief, it may be a whole
mhm.
cluster of beliefs that contribute to that. So where do you begin with something like that and someone like that?
Well, when they come in, I always ask what's going on and what would you rather be experiencing, right? Like basically, why are you here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I love that question. It's just this little subtle shift. What would you rather be experiencing?
And that stumps people frequently.
Yeah, I
They
can.
know what they're trying to avoid, but they
Mhm.
don't always know what they want.
Yeah, they don't always know what they want. And so what's the next piece of that?
So then we try to figure out what's contributing to the block,
Mhm.
what's causing the resistance to the thing
Mhm.
that they want. With the process I use, I use muscle testing to
Mhm.
figure out what is in the subconscious.
Mhm.
And so they might say, it's okay for me to want more money than I need. And if I muscle test and it shows that the subconscious does not believe that, there's a good thing.
Okay, okay, right.
So once they start talking about what they want, I get them to either tell me about emotions that are distressing or affirmation style statements that they would like to be true. And we just muscle test them. And
Hmm.
if that's not what's in the subconscious, then we do the change process to put it there.
So are you only working with people that face to face doing the muscle testing?
And I can do that virtually. So I only
Good.
work with people on Zoom,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I used to have an office, and with the lockdown, I simplified my life, and now I only see clients remotely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how we've adapted and how we've shifted and how we've discovered what's possible. That's the thing I've been so aware
Yes. Yeah.
of.
It's so much simpler. I mean, the time that's not spent driving around and the reach. I've worked with clients. I don't think anybody in Antarctica, but all the other continents. Uh, and because I don't always know where they are, that they could have been in Antarctica, but nobody's mentioned it.
Right, right.
So, yeah.
And how I'm thinking about self-doubt and how self-doubt interrupts so much of our way of connecting with who we are, so much of us connecting and believing in the reality even of what our own inner guidance suggests to us. And oh, well, that couldn't possibly be true. That's not me. And well, that's a good thing, but again, not me. That's a limiting belief.
Very much so. And that makes me sad. Because people feel like they don't have choice, that there's no way to change the outcome of the path they're on. And if it's not a happy path,
Mhm.
that's sad. If they feel like they just need to accept it as their lot in life, because they don't.
Yeah. And I feel you kind of on a mission really to upend that.
Absolutely. That's why I love being on shows.
Yeah.
So I can explain that when things aren't working the way you want, subconscious beliefs are a big part of that.
Yeah.
And those can be changed one way or another. Um, so not to give up hope, to
Hmm.
really know that you can decide what you want and do things to make it more likely that that's what happens.
Yeah. Because you talked about in the very beginning today how it's those early years where we are those sponges and where we're forming all of those original ideas, those basic fundamental, oh, this is the way I see the world. I see that I have a 10-month-old grandson and I'm head over heels in love with him, and I get to watch how he is a sponge, how he's determining who's okay, who's not, what's okay, what's not. Oh, I want to climb the stairs again and I'm going to, make a little noise. So you're going to come up and come behind me. And oh, I'm safe. That's the piece that I see being imprinted and being developed in him.
Isn't it
But if we,
interesting to
go ahead.
watch them try out the different limits of things
Yeah.
it's really very experimental.
Hmm. So that brings up an interesting question is, could you imagine, because we're so malleable, truly, and our brains are malleable, could you imagine creating an arena where we are that malleable, where we get to take in new information, where we really update what you call, and I call it that too, the operating system.
Mhm. Yes, I absolutely can imagine that because I think I think each of us has the ability
Mhm.
to get in that type of an environment, to have that perspective.
Mhm. What would that be like, do you imagine?
One of the things, and I mentioned it, people don't always know what they want, but we don't dream much. We're not encouraged, I don't think, generally speaking, to dream, to think about possibilities,
Mm-hmm.
potentials, and get in touch with that inner knowing that you talk about.
Mm-hmm.
See
Mm-hmm.
which ones light us up and which ones don't.
So
So
that capacity to dream and being encouraged to dream, being encouraged to to tap into your potential, tap into possibility. That's the kind of the ground that you're speaking to.
it is. And then listening to yourself of that doesn't feel great. This feels like it would be really interesting to try to see
Mm-hmm.
more about, So I think it would help us trust, the inner wisdom that we have more because it's there.
It is there.
I rely on that a lot with my clients. It's their change, it's their
Mm-hmm.
wisdom, it's what they want to be different.
So
It,
you really are unlocking that whole that whole arena.
it is, yes.
So, even though I know your focus is around shifting those subconscious beliefs, and that's where it starts, it really is such a much bigger picture now that you're painting all of it.
It is. It's empowering people to be able to create what they want to be living in.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine the impact that that has on the world because, you start from a single person, but then another person, and then people start acknowledging what's possible, acknowledging, oh, you're more than I thought you were.
Absolutely. And not being threatened by
Not
others.
being threatened. Say more about that, because that's a big one.
Feeling safe. We children learn what's safe and what isn't. And then, we have other experiences in life that can add to that. Certainly that, 7 isn't the cutoff limit for subconscious beliefs. But you learn things when you're little that make you afraid. They make you feel physically unsafe. They might make you feel emotionally unsafe. There's, all sorts of safety issues that are out there that are influencing our decisions.
Mhm. Yeah. But it's beyond just safety, because as we grow older, it's how to recognize that, well, uncertainty is okay.
Ooh,
Going into the
yes.
unknown is okay, because that's how we learn something new. That's how we experience something new.
Totally. Your grandson, I don't know if he's walking yet, but
Just
when,
about.
yeah, each of us learned to walk by falling down and getting up again. And at that age, it was not scary and it was not discouraged, right? Nobody
Right.
says, well, don't try that again because it didn't
Mhm.
work,
Right.
or we wouldn't be walking. Right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Somewhere between that walking phase and later, many people learn that there are things that it's not okay to try things and see what happens, or keep trying things until it does work because you need practice, or
Mhm.
that it's okay to do some things imperfectly.
Wow. Lots of pieces in there that we can
Ah,
immediately extrapolate onto present day life.
mhm.
Because if, especially for entrepreneurs, um, that's a case of, if you're an entrepreneur, you are by nature, by virtue of you being in that arena, you have to be trying things, and you are experimenting. You are discovering how to do this, even though there's been lots of um, people who have gone before us. No one is ever going to do it quite like you and who you are.
So true. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what could people who are listening to us, who are here with us right now, what could they do to start changing those patterns that don't support them?
One thing I have seen work is to get very clear about what you do want. That's like, you've
Mm.
got to do that. If you don't know what you want, it's highly unlikely you'll get there. But then once you know what it is, to
Mhm.
get very granular in examples of how this will show up in your life. Think
Ooh.
about how it's really going to look, good visual details
Mhm.
with examples, 3 examples at least for whatever this goal is,
Mhm.
of different ways it's going to show up. And so what will you be seeing? What will you be saying to yourself?
Mhm.
What are the emotions that you're going to feel? I think that's the biggest,
Mhm.
is to get really immersed in the emotion of how that's going to feel when it's true. And I have seen that change some subconscious beliefs. So it's a really, you know, straightforward thing you can do at home.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't have to muscle test your way to it.
Oh no, yeah.
But
At
it's
home, we're
hard. What you're suggesting is simple, and it's not necessarily easy.
right. You have to think about it usually.
Hmm. And I can imagine that it's how helpful it would also be to have a guide, in that process, to get really clear and to allow yourself to be immersed, because we don't do that. We still are operating with that part of our brain, the amygdala, that keeps us safe. It's that fight or flight. And no, the saber-toothed tigers are not out there, ready to chomp you if you take a risk and, I don't know, go and speak at an event, or just go to an event and meet new people, or whatever it is that's outside of your comfort zone.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, it takes a commitment to a little bit of time, a little bit of introspection,
Mhm.
getting a clear space to really be able to think about it. But
Mhm.
think about what you're losing if you don't.
Hmm. Although if you've never had it, you haven't lost it, but there's that, again, that discrepancy, that gap between where I am and what I really want.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. So how and why was this what you started feeling as your calling? How did you come to this?
Uh, some people think it's a funny path. To me, in hindsight, it makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
Um, I spent years in IT management,
Uh-huh.
decades in IT management,
Uh-huh.
and but that's not as different from this as it sounds, because in both cases, people come, they've got a system that isn't doing what they want. And we figure out what the changes need to be to get
Uh-huh.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So not as different as it might sound.
Mm-hmm.
I had 5 years as a realtor, which let me see what it was like to have an entrepreneurial type of a business, because I never
Mm-hmm.
had to look for it in corporate America.
Right, right.
It was always there,
Mm-hmm.
lots of things to do. Um, so they kind of contributed, but the real catalyst for doing this specific thing was I saw it work. I saw this process work. It was very clear to me that it was something that I could learn. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
involve interpreting messages or sensing where energy is or moving it, because
Mm-hmm.
those weren't skills I thought I had when I first saw this. And
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have felt confident in what I was doing if it took
Mm-hmm.
that type of knowledge. But this was a very straightforward process.
Yeah.
And I saw it take away, I was married at the time and the husband had an ache. And I saw somebody get that pain to go away in less than 5 minutes, and it didn't come back. So there was a very definite result from it. And I
Mm-hmm.
see the potential,
Yeah.
because it's not just for physical symptoms of
Mm-hmm.
pain. It's you apply it to the things you're going to try, and how to fulfill your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's just so much potential with what the subconscious is providing there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was just, yeah, I had to learn how to do it when I saw it. I did it
You've
for
been
about
going ever since.
yeah, I have. I was doing it just for me and people I knew when I first learned it. It was about 3 years later I made it a business, because it was too good I wanted to reach more people.
Yes, of course, of course. So along those lines, how can people reach you to do this?
Yeah, I've got a website in the little signature area on this call. You can see Aligned Consciousness. Well, that's the name of my
Mhm.
business. So if they went to www.alignedconsciousness with no space in
Mhm.
there.com, they, you can see places to download resources, ways to
Mhm.
contact me. There's a lot more information about it there.
Wonderful. And that will be in the show notes too. So we will
Great.
absolutely have that in so that people don't have to go looking for it.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of, if you're just listening to it, it's kind of hard to always be able to write something down. So that'll,
Exactly.
yeah.
Anything else that you would love to share with our guests, with our people?
Just repeating the fact that if things aren't the way you want them, there's something you can do about it.
Hmm. You're not stuck.
You're not stuck.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Judy. That is both hopeful and not just hopeful in that, oh, okay, that's nice, but with a real direct, here's what you can do. Here's how you can begin to make those changes. Yeah. Thank you again for being such a wonderful guest on Wisdom Talk Radio.
Thank you. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Mm. And thank you to our listeners, our viewers here at Wisdom Talk Radio, because we're doing this for you. And when you join us here, when you share it with other people, that helps to spread this kind of wisdom and inspiration, because really that's what we're about, is about changing the world one listener, one viewer at a time. And then that ripple effect starts to grow and it continues. And really, what kind of a world, just to think about what Judy has asked us, what kind of a world do we want to create? What is it that we want to see? And when we have that picture, that's when we start to create it. We start to know how to create it. So you find us on any place that your favorite platform rather to listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube because you can watch us as well. And if you've enjoyed this, please do leave us a review, because again, that's what helps people to say, oh, I want to check that out. I want to know what that is. And for more about deepening your connection with your own inner guidance, because it's possible to deepen that. As a matter of fact, that's really how we change our lives. One other way we change our lives, take the Quantum Connection quiz over at the Baca Institute. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.